So we are looking today at Moses. We're starting a new series. We've looked at Abraham, we've looked at Joseph, and now we are looking at Moses. Before we look at the reading this morning, let's start by getting the kind of the timing, the chronology, the flow of this, so that we get in our heads where God is working in all of this. So we looked at, and the reason I've gone through this over the last few weeks is because there is obviously a proper chronology of it that we find in the Old Testament. We started with Abraham. Abraham feeling that call of God to leave his home and travel, and the God that promised him that he would have descendants that numbered more than the stars that you can see in the sky. And it all starts very slowly with Isaac, one boy. Isaac then has children, and one of those is Jacob. Then Jacob has a lot more children, as we looked at in the last couple of weeks, and one of those is Joseph. Joseph ends up, as we looked in the storyline of the last couple of weeks, in Egypt, and his family come over to Egypt, and they stay there in a city, in an area which gets bigger and bigger because they multiply. And so we kind of get to that storyline now. So God's people that started off with Abraham are now getting more and more, and they are in an area around in Egypt. Some years go on, some generations go on, and we now turn to Exodus chapter 2, which is on page 58. Good to hear the rustle of the Bible pages. I would suggest that you keep hold of them after we've read this morning. Keep your finger there, because I'm just going to look at chapter 1 and 2 this morning. And it might be good just to have a read through for yourself. Before we read, let's declare what it is we're reading from. So let's say these words together. I hold God's word in my hands. It encourages, corrects, and instructs me. Lord, speak to me now. So, page 58, we are reading Exodus chapter 2, and our reading in Readers 1 this week goes from verse 1 to 21. I'm not going to read all of that this morning, but I trust that you will during the week. And we're going to start at verse 1 of chapter 2 of Exodus. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch, and then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister, older sister, stood at the distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This is one of the Hebrew babies, she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? Yes, go, she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother, and Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you. So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. We thank God for that word this morning. Now, I wonder how many people kind of think the Old Testament is dated, out of date with being relevant today. It's happened thousands of years ago, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago maybe. Interesting, as I was thinking about this storyline during last week, and I was thinking, you know, we live in a society at the moment, very up to date, where the media and politics is talking of controlling immigration, ethnic groups living in our land, the threat of terror, the threat of war coming out of that. And it consumes some people so much that they want whole groups out of the country. And President Trump is trying and retrying to get laws passed to ban certain ethnic groups from coming into the USA. Last Sunday evening, a man drove a van into people around the mosque shouting, I'm going to kill all Muslims. Surely you say that the Bible is relevant to our day and time when all these things are happening around us today? Well, flip back a page, if there was a page, to Exodus 1, the chapter before Exodus 2, and have a read of what it says in there. I'm going to pick out a few verses so you can follow me. It'd be good. Exodus chapter 1, starting at verse 6. Now, Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died. But the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful, and they multiplied greatly, increasing in number and become so numerous that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, verse 8, then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came into power in Egypt. Look, he said to his people, the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. We must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if wars break out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So he forced the Hebrews into slavery. He managed to get that ethnic group, if you will, and make them into slaves. If you skip down to verse 15, the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on a delivery stall, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it is a girl, let her live. The midwives didn't do that. They couldn't do that. So then Pharaoh, in verse 22, then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. He was getting desperate now. Issuing a decree. Every Hebrew boy that is born must be thrown into the Nile. But let every girl live. He's doing a cull to stop this people group getting bigger. Pharaoh was so scared really of this ethnic group in his land. that he ordered his citizens to kill Hebrew baby boys. So is the Old Testament that different to today?
No.
This series on Moses, I've put as a kind of a title against it, Discovering God Through Moses. And that's kind of where I'm heading in my mind, is that we're not just going through the story of Moses. We are discovering God through Moses. And today, the subtitle to that for this passage is God Works in Unexpected Ways. A little bit like the song of Bill Nye we just sang. God works in unexpected ways. So let's take this story. God's people, remember this is God's people. This starts with Abraham. This is God's chosen people, the Hebrews. They are now in Egypt. And they started out in the king's favour. But generations have gone along. There is a new Pharaoh. And he doesn't know anything of Joseph and what he did and so on. And so he sees this group as a threat. He wants to control them. But this is God's people. And God is going to make sure that they still flourish. He'd already promised to Abraham, my people are going to flourish, they're going to grow, they're going to get bigger, they're going to be more than the stars that you can see in the sky. So how's that going to happen? God's people have had it tough. It seems like God, at this time when they were in Egypt, was no longer listening to them. But of course he was. It's a little bit like the scene I was thinking in the week of the life of Jesus. And he and his disciples, you remember this little story? I'm going to cover it for a moment. They're in the boat on the Sea of Galilee. And there's an unexpected storm blows up. And Jesus is laying asleep at the back of the boat with his disciples, panicking and thinking they're going to drown and all of that. And they wake Jesus up and they say, "Teacher, don't you even care that we are going to drown?" And I think that kind of goes back to the Hebrews in Egypt, where they're kind of going through a generation now and they're kind of lifting up their prayers to God, and they're kind of saying, "God, don't you care that we're being forced into making these bricks and slavery and all of that? Don't you care?" But of course God was listening to them. And he was ready to act with his timing. At his timing. God works in unexpected ways. Now, because we know the story of God, there's been films of it, we've read the book, we've got the t-shirt, we know the story of Moses pretty well. So it's not really possible to imagine what we would do if we were God, because we know very well what happened. But I was just surmising during the week, if we kind of sat around as a team this morning and we worked out how to get God's people to become a great nation that God said they would be, I think we would not come up with the idea that we find in the first few chapters of Exodus. That wouldn't be our script. That wouldn't be our plan. You look through the first 2 or 3 chapters of Exodus, that wouldn't be what we would discuss and think, now look, this is God's people, they need to flourish and grow and so on. What do we do about it? You ever read of chapter 1 and 2, and if you want to go into chapter 3 as well during the week, and I think, is this what I would do? So Pharaoh, not liking this ethnic group getting larger and larger, and he can't seem to even control them, although they're slaves and so on, they're just getting more and more, just as God said they would become more and more. And so he decides to do some ethnic cleansing. and he culls the Hebrew baby boys. That's the order he gives. And if the midwives won't do it, he just gives a general order. He's so desperate that basically anyone could do it. As I was thinking about it, I was just thinking, if you were a wife and you become pregnant, and you know that's the law now, that the Pharaoh of Egypt says if you're going to have a baby boy, they're going to kill them. I mean, what would go through the mind of that mother for 9 months for a start? Anyway, God works in unexpected ways. And he works with this woman, Jochebed. Anyone heard of Jochebed? Until this moment, probably not many of you have heard that name. It's the name that's in the Torah, in the Torah, the Jewish Torah, of Moses' mother. The Hebrew mother who gives birth to a baby boy, knowing all that's being said and done. And she knew what was going to happen under Pharaoh's orders. She has a boy. If it was a girl, it's okay. If it's a boy, And so she hides this baby boy of hers for 3 months. And it's not like our present day circumstances. You can't really hide a baby, certainly in the situation they were at then, for very long. And she doesn't know what to do, but she gets the idea from God, I believe, that she will put him in this papyrus basket. She will weave this basket out of papyrus leaves, and she'll put him in there and float him along in the Nile by the reeds. And God works in unexpected ways. That's the title of this message today. Because what happens next is really a miracle, a marvel, a God incident. Because Pharaoh's daughter, yes, the Pharaoh who is culling Hebrew baby boys, goes down to the river Nile for a bathe with her attendants. And she sees the basket and she sends one of her slaves to go and fetch it. And inside is this crying baby boy that she knows is a Hebrew. She knows is a Hebrew. Because, Hebrew baby boys have one thing different to Egyptian baby boys. So she knew he was a Hebrew. And the baby's sister, Miriam, who we see in verse 4 is watching what happens, is bold enough to go up to Pharaoh's daughter and suggest that she would find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby. Because obviously Pharaoh's young daughter is not able to nurse a baby, not only to feed him milk. And so the daughter agrees. Think of this, already this baby should be no longer. Once Pharaoh's daughter finds him, she knows he's a Hebrew, she knows he's a baby boy, and she knows he should be dead. But she agrees that a Hebrew woman comes and looks after this baby and nurses him because the baby needs milk. And get this, she will pay her. Only God could do something like that. And once the baby is through weaning, Jochebed, I'm sure with tears rolling down her face, hands, who's now obviously a toddler. And this baby then officially becomes the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And she names him Moses. It is Pharaoh's daughter that names him Moses because the main meaning of that is to sort of pull out. And of because she poured out this baby from the River Nile. God works in unexpected ways. And here's the truth that I've said several times before, and I hope many of you know to be true, is that what you give God, He gives back even more. Whatever you give God, He will give you back with interest, let's say. You can't outgive God. And Moses' mother gives to God, if you will, this son of hers. I can't do anything with him. I've got to give him up. And in doing that, well, you know the story. And we'll cover it over the next few weeks. But it's still true today. Still true of you and me. Anything that we give to God, He will pay back to us several times over. And so, if you give Him something that you have, if it's a gift of some way, if it's a talent of some way, if it's an item in some way, and you say, Lord, I just want to give this over to you, whatever you give, He will give you back even more so. If you give to God your tithe, your 10%, yes, I said 10%, if you give that as first priority, God will make sure that you get back many blessings. If you give God an hour of your day, and you say, out of 24 hours, Lord, I'm going to spend some time really studying, I'm going to read your word, I'm going to worship you, I'm going to give you an hour of my day, and you kind of think, can I give an hour of my day? The time seems to go so fast. And I can guarantee that if you give God an hour of your day and you're worshipping Him and you're spending time reading His word, the hour will come back even more so. You cannot outgive God. If you come on Sunday and you say, right, I'm going to give God my full worship. I'm going to give to Him all that I can. I'm going to praise Him. I'm going to pray with Him. I'm just going to be absorbed with the Lord. He will give you back so many more blessings. When people come out of church and go, I didn't get much out of that, the question is normally, well, how much did you give in the first place? Because if you come giving your worship on a Sunday, you will get back much more. So, Jochebed gave the Lord something very precious to her. And even with a Hebrew boy, baby boy, arriving in Pharaoh's palace, he didn't get killed. But he actually grew up like a prince in the palace. Like a prince in Egypt. How amazing is that? How's that for paying back with a bonus? You give God your little baby, and then you get him back for a while so that you can feed him and look after him for a while, and you get some money. And then you finally have to give him up. And then you find that he becomes a prince in Egypt. How amazing. And God hasn't finished working the unexpected ways that He does yet, as we will see. You want to know how God works in unexpected ways elsewhere? The other day I was in discussion and we said that God did something really unexpected with Saul. I was talking with you about Saul and Paul, and that was it the other day, I can't remember now. I was talking to someone. And Saul was going around kind of ripping up Christians, if you will. Left, right and centre. If Saul was in town, you knew that the Christians would be beaten. The Christians would be killed. And any sign of a church would be pulled down. So if Saul was in town, you kind of got out of the way, or you knew there was going to be some pretty bad, gory stuff going on. But God works in totally unexpected ways. He meets with Saul. This guy had been doing all that bad stuff. And Saul becomes Paul. And he starts risking his life, does Paul, to the point to point people to Jesus, to make disciples, and yes, to even build churches. How amazing is that? I imagine there were some people in towns that when this new Paul turned up, they were very wary of him, to say the least, if not afraid, if not hiding, because they had heard about this guy and what he'd been doing. And yet God met Saul and turned him into Paul, and there was a complete change around, an unexpected way. You kind of think, well, if God was going to build some churches or whatever, he would use some missionary that's already there, or he would use someone who was really on fire for the Lord or whatever. No, he takes this kind of terrorist almost, and he says, I'm going to change you so that you build the church, that you build up my people, that you write letters that Christians are going to read 2,000 years down the line. Only God can do that. He works in unexpected ways. You want one more quickly? How he works in unexpected ways? Me and you. Or you and me. You know, we didn't deserve to get anywhere near God. I mean, we both know that when we grew up, over the years in the past, and even now, we mess up. We sin. We ignore God. We put him to one side. We choose to go our own way. All those kind of things that we often talk about. We are fully aware that we are not perfect, you and I, aren't we? And anyone not perfect cannot get anywhere near a perfect God. But God works in unexpected ways. And he sends his one and only Son, who is perfect, to die a terrible death and to be plummeted into hell itself in our place, so that we can be seen as perfect in God's eyes and live with him forever and ever. Now that's an unexpected God. Oh, but it doesn't end there. No. There is still something totally unexpected that we get from God. God doesn't just redeem us. He doesn't just send Jesus to die for us so that now we have a place in heaven and heaven's door is open for us forever and ever. He actually sends his Holy Spirit. He comes himself, not to walk around in downtown Jerusalem, not to walk around by our side, but to actually be within us. God in us. We sing at Christmas about Emmanuel because Jesus comes and is with us, God with us, but the Holy Spirit is God within us. How amazing, how unexpected that is. And so we need to give to God. When he does so much for us, we give to him and he will give us back even more. Give him, well, I'm going to finish with a song that you know. But we're not going to sing it. We're going to sing another song in a moment. But I want to read the words. Because sometimes we sing a song and we kind of know the words and we feel the words, but we don't always stop and really take them in because the next word comes along, we're singing it and we're trying to think of the tune and so on. So I just want us to bow in prayer now, and I'm going to read this song through. And I hope that you will make it your prayer, that God will work in unexpected ways in your life as we give to him, just as Moses' mother gave her son up. So let's just bow before the Lord as I read these words. Familiar to you? Lord, Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days and let them flow in endless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my voice and let me sing always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from Thee. Take my silver and my gold, not a mite would I withhold. Take my intellect and use every power as Thou shalt choose. Take my will and make it Thine. It shall no longer be mine. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal throne. Take my love, my Lord, I pour at Thy feet its treasure store. Take myself, and I will be ever, only, all